In this video, we're going to learn some of the different ways that we can classify matter. So there are sort of two larger categories and then kind of a few subcategories within each of those. So firstly, we can categorize something as either a pure substance or a mixture. So a pure substance is something that contains only one kind of chemical. So it doesn't matter what it is, but all of the particles in that substance have the same chemical formula, is what it means for something to be a pure substance, that all of the things are the same. There are a couple different kinds of pure substances that we can distinguish between as well. So the first is elements. So an element is a substance that contains atoms of only one type. So these are the things listed on the periodic table. In order for us to say that this is a sample of an element, all of the atoms in that sample must all be of the same kind. They all have the same atomic number. So a few examples of elements might be helium, which would just have the formula He. Oxygen is what we call a diatomic element, meaning that oxygen exists sort of in pairs, that the atoms always come 2 by 2. Remember that this subscript in our formula tells you the number of atoms of that element. And the subscript always refers to the element directly before it. So the 2, we only have one option here, but the 2 is referring to the oxygen here, saying that there are 2 atoms of oxygen connected together in this molecule. So it's fine if we have more than one atom in the formula, but the important thing for something to be called an element is that it is only one element, not a mixture of multiple. All of our atoms are oxygen here. Or one more to throw on the list is sulfur. Exists primarily as S8, 8 sulfur atoms connected together. So again, number of atoms in the formula doesn't really matter, just that they're all the same kind. So the other type of pure substance that we want to recognize is the compound, which is a substance that contains atoms of more than one type, or more than one different element. So some examples of compounds that are maybe familiar. Water we know is H2O, carbon dioxide is CO2, methane is CH4. There are many compounds in the world, but those are just a few simple ones. And we can see each of these has 2 different elements. We have hydrogen and oxygen in water, we have carbon and oxygen in carbon dioxide, and we have carbon and hydrogen in methane. So those are the 2 main kinds of pure substances that you want to be aware of. If something is not a pure substance, if it contains more than one kind of chemical, we refer to that as a mixture. So a mixture is anything that contains more than one kind of chemical. It can be elements, it can be compounds, it can be some of each. And once again, we have a couple different kinds of mixtures to be aware of. We have homogeneous and we have heterogeneous mixtures. So homogeneous mixtures, prefix homo meaning same, means basically in a homogeneous mixture everything looks the same. It's a mixture in which the chemicals are uniformly distributed throughout, and you can't visually distinguish one from another. So these often look like they're a pure substance, despite the fact that they are actually a mixture. So probably the most common examples of homogeneous mixtures that you encounter are beverages. If you have, let's say, a glass of iced tea, that is mostly water, but perhaps you've dissolved some sugar in it. There's the tea that was steeped, and all of those flavor compounds are dissolved. But it looks like one thing. You can't look at it and go, oh, well, there's the tea part, and there's the water part, and there's the sugar part. It's all evenly mixed. It's all uniform throughout. So that is what makes something a homogeneous mixture. A heterogeneous mixture in contrast is one where you can actually see the different parts. So either things are not uniformly distributed, and are visually distinct in some way. So a simple example of this is something like sand at the beach. If you go and take a scoop of sand on a shovel at the beach, you will probably find some seashells and some rocks and all different things that you could pretty easily pick apart, and you can see the different components in that mixture. Is probably the easiest thing to visualize, I think. So homogeneous means it kind of looks like one substance even though there's multiple things in there. Heterogeneous, you can definitely see it's multiple different things because you can visually distinguish between them. So those are the major categories to be aware of. On sort of the higher level, we've got pure substance versus mixture. Is it one chemical or is it multiple chemicals? And then we can break it down further within each of those. So pure substances, if it's composed of atoms of only one type, we call that an element. If it is atoms of multiple different elements connected together, we call that a compound. And then mixtures can either be homogeneous or heterogeneous.